Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now the price of Bitcoin is on the edge of potentially re-entering into this massive accumulation range, especially while the Bitcoin price is struggling around some of these levels of support. But we do have a decent buy wall coming into play in the Bitcoin order books, and I'll be talking more about that later in the video. Definitely stick around. Just starting off on the weekly Bitcoin chart, and as I mentioned in the intro of this video, the price of Bitcoin is right on the edge of potentially re-entering into this massive accumulation range, because this green line, which is the 1,000-day simple moving average, is coming in at around 28,500, and at the time of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin at the moment is sitting really close to that moving average, and we're still yet to see a weekly candle close below 28,500, but if we do end up seeing a weekly candle close below 28,500, then technically speaking, according to Bitcoin's previous price history, that would significantly increase the chance of the Bitcoin price dropping down towards the 200-week moving average, where historically speaking, we've usually seen massive Bitcoin bottoms around that moving average, which is currently sitting in between 22,000 and 23,000. But once again, historically speaking, when you're looking at many years worth of Bitcoin's history, basically every time where the price of Bitcoin drops below that 1,000-day moving average, and especially if we get closer towards the 200-week moving average, they are some of the best Bitcoin buying opportunities we have seen throughout Bitcoin's entire price history. But of course, that is not financial advice. That's just telling you what has happened time and time again and what is most likely to occur next. And just before we get into the short-term Bitcoin price action, another signal here on the weekly time frame that usually occurs around Bitcoin bottoms is when we see a massive spike in volume, like what we saw at the end of the 2014 bear market. Obviously, for pretty much the entire year of 2014, we saw a massive bear market for the price of Bitcoin, where we saw the price of Bitcoin re-enter into this price range in between the 1,000-day moving average and the 200-week moving average. But right at the end of that bear market, just before we saw a lot of sideways consolidation, at that final candle there that basically put an end to the 2014 bear market, we saw a massive spike in volume. Now, keep in mind, even when the 2014 bear market bottomed out, we still had a lot of sideways price action ahead of us, because remember, this right here is on the weekly Bitcoin chart. Each one of these candles is an entire week. So it's not like the bear market ended and then we immediately went to the moon. Things obviously take some time. But overall, having this massive spike in volume on a red candle after we had already seen a lot of bearish price action, and while the Bitcoin price is trading around these moving averages, back at the end of 2014, entering into early 2015, this combination of indicators revealed a great opportunity to dollar cost average into Bitcoin at that stage in the market. And if you're looking at the weekly Bitcoin volume in the present day, obviously for the subscribers out there, you would probably already know this, but we did already see a massive spike in volume in that capitulation that happened around a month ago, when of course we had one of the biggest meltdowns in crypto history, which was the lunar meltdown, resulting in Terraform Labs selling 80,000 Bitcoin on top of all of the other panic sold Bitcoin during that time period. And once again, historically speaking, this usually means Bitcoin has either hit its bottom or it's very close to a bottom, like what we saw at the end of the 2018 bear market, and also like what we saw in the middle of last year. Because in both of those examples, the massive spike in volume came at the end of the capitulation, but we still had one more lower low that formed in both of these scenarios, talking about the end of 2018 and the middle of last year. And so all of this here on the weekly Bitcoin chart is lining up pretty well when you're looking at the volume spikes and these important moving averages, and also the weekly Bitcoin RSI, which is very close to oversold territories, but is not there just yet. So yes, technically speaking, there is some more room to the downside, but keep in mind this room to the downside, according to history, is somewhat limited when you're going off some of Bitcoin's most significant Bitcoin bottoms. And just giving you a quick update here on the daily Bitcoin chart, looking at this fractal, which is basically the price action we saw in the middle of last year, overlaid on top of the current Bitcoin price action. And obviously, we've already seen a bit of an outlier here, where the price of Bitcoin basically deviated from this fractal for a shorter amount of time. But right now, we're basically back on track because we've seen that short-term pullback as expected, what this fractal was suggesting. And once again, this too falls in line pretty well with what I was saying on the weekly Bitcoin chart about the price of Bitcoin still having a little bit more room to the downside, technically speaking. But for the most part, I'm expecting a lot of sideways consolidation with some volatility in between, potentially over the next few weeks or so, before we might perform a bit more of a relief rally, maybe in a month from now after more things get priced in. And what I mean by more things getting priced in is basically people pricing in the Fed raising interest rates higher than what was previously expected because inflation came in much hotter than what was expected yesterday according to previous predictions. But if you're new to the channel and you want more information about all of that, check out my last video here on the channel. But now getting into the short-term Bitcoin price action here on the 4-hour time frame. And at the time of recording this video, the Bitcoin price is really struggling to maintain above 28,500, which is our level of support that is important here. And technically speaking, as of recording this video, we have seen one 4-hour candle close below 28,500. But when you're talking about a line of support this important, really we need to see at least a daily candle close below 28,500 in order to potentially confirm a further break to the downside. And on top of that, if that does end up playing out, ideally if we could also see some sort of retest actually confirming 28,500 as new resistance, that would simply be more confirmation of a further break to the downside. But right now, at the time of recording this video, we haven't seen that, but we did actually see that for this previous level of support, which was coming in at around 29,500. Obviously, over the past one day or so, we saw a break to the downside below 29,500, and then we saw a decent retest of that level, confirming it as new resistance with a rejection from that level. And so that is the type of price action that I'll be looking out for, but instead of 29,500, looking at this 28,500 level now. But something else to keep in mind is the Bitcoin order books across all of these exchanges, and right now we actually have a decent amount of buy orders coming in at pretty much exactly $28,000 per Bitcoin. And so that buy war at 28k once again could act as some short-term support for Bitcoin as well, even if we do break below 28,500. And in case you missed my last video, I formed a team in the World Series of Trading, the biggest trading competition that happens only once per year. And this year there's a total prize pool of up to 8 million USDT that could be shared if we win. And so if you want to potentially earn yourself a share in $8 million, all you have to do is literally just join my team. And the more members we have in this team, the more likely we'll place well in the competition, which means potential prize money for our members. And it costs absolutely nothing to sign up and join this team, but there is criteria for the competition where you can find out more on this page right here. And I'll include a link to this page in the description down below. In fact, it'll be the first link in the description and the first link in the pinned comment if you want to check this out. And make sure to watch one of these videos popping up right here on your screen if you want to maximize your profits in crypto, even if prices are going down. But anyway, that is it for this update. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.